Hey there guys, this is DanteeChaos, I'm Trapjack, and I was contacted on Reddit a couple of days ago by a guy named DanteeChaos, and he suggested this replay to me. It's a game where he played against Cataclaw, so an Orc versus Eldar matchup, and he said, dude, I would be very happy if you would cast that, because I think this will help others to stand their own as Orc versus Eldar, which is arguably, an unfavorable matchup for Orcs. So here we are. We are on Comet's Pass. And yeah, I thought, well, let's do this, right? I haven't watched it, so let's see what is in there. I'm gonna slowly do this because I want to go over the different doctrines first. So we have Cataclaw spawned on the bottom left as an Eldar with the improved plasma grenades, the focus shield, and the Wraith Lord's command. He brings to the table the striking scorpions, Fascia Mecha, and the Autar Kyre. And on the other hand, on the top right, we have DanteeChaos, and he has the Keep Truckin', he has Thump from the Sky, and the Healing Scrap, as well as the Storm Boys, the Weird Boy, and Beauty. Well, in terms of Eldar doctrines, we have seen that type of play from Cataclaw time and time again, where he goes for the focus shield for his Falcons and pretty much tries to get to tier 2 as fast as possible in the second escalation phase, maybe at the latest point, and tries to pressure with the Falcons if his Dire Avenger things start to fail. Now in this matchup he goes for 3 Bone Singers at the start. Usually he's just going for 2. Meanwhile, Dante is going for an additional Gretchen squad, which is now, I think, going for a Ducker Hut maybe here or something, or he's just forward capping, scouting the map. Yeah, and 2 Slugger Boys. We have the first little engagement as those Slugger Boys are going for the Bone Singer here. Nice little kill. It's not per se an advantage, but it's nice to have this little victories, I'd say, time and time again. This is the Ducker Hut here, and some of the Avengers are already firing on the War Tower here, while the other Avengers coming from the other side. Webway Gate is already been ported to here. I don't know if that was maybe a mistake from Cataclaw here, as the War comes in from those Orc Boys. We'll get them a shield, we'll get them a little bit of additional damage here to maybe get this Webway Gate, but they can't tank the fire of the Dire Avengers, which are staying here to reload. We have a Looter squad coming in. That should help for defensive purposes. Nice little plasma grenade right here, but with the healing scrap he doesn't need to reinforce really. And let's see what Cataclaw does. He's going for another Dire Avenger squad, so Dire Avengers pretty much yeah, the go-to for Eldar. Now the Looter Boys with the Gretchens and the Slugger Boys are going for this portal, but there's only, yeah, the cooldown went off, and with that they could spare the bullets basically, because they could save the bullets, because that is yeah, the Eldar would port that out 10 times out of 10 if he's looking for it, like if he watches it. Losing a Webway Gate early on is pretty catastrophic for an Eldar. So we have those 3 Dire Avenger squads along with the Bone Singers here on the field. Obviously my focus will be more on the Orc player, as this replay is meant to be a little help for Orcs to stand yeah, to stand against an Eldar. We have the Bone Singer, which is ported here, and Cataclaw is arguably at the moment one of the best Eldar players. Well, there's Bike Rush as well, but Cataclaw is in there as well, in those top players. So when it comes to Orc players, well, Eldar comes to mind in his presence. And now we have a pressure situation going on, while as the looters doing quite a lot of damage to this Dire Avenger squad. War Tower is also there. There's a Suicide Bomber coming in, misses ever so slightly, but those Dire Avengers have to go away now as the Storm Boys are now on the field, along with the truck, and the truck is already right here. And he has to keep trucking, and the Suicide Bombers from the Storm Boys ready to go here. And I gotta clean my nose. Just a second. It's not even that cold, and I'm not sick, but maybe allergies or something. Well, Dire Avengers do not stop for pressuring this War Tower, so this is really like something which seems to disturb the Eldar player more than you would think. That is striking Scorpions here on the top. Webway Gate gets ported here because he wants to go. Yeah, that is typically Eldar. Eldar striking Scorpions just go for the core because the true damage crits of those are so much more powerful than anything else you can have at 2 elite points right there. And they are already, next crit is coming in. One more blip is there for the shield generator. There comes the taunt, there comes the Suicide Bomber in, and there are the Slugger Boys trying to defend that wisely. Cataclaw is moving his striking Scorpions away. Could go for the on the hunt still to have a little bit of stealth if he needs to, but yeah. And this is so freaking bad that the cooldown for this Wetway Gate, he just ported it there and it's already down from cooldown. So you basically never have a chance in the current game to get this if you just don't spot it right as it is ported onto the field. So yeah, whenever you have the army of the Eldar to when you get them to retreat, the Wetway portal will follow, and the Wetway portal is so instrumental in Eldar play that I feel a little bit of a longer cooldown would go a really long way to make this a more balanced experience basically. Suicide Bomber is coming in, and we see where this is going. Like, is there a heavy emphasis on... I would not even call this tier 2, I would call this tier 1.5 for an Orc. Where he goes for the Suicide Truck, sleep of the Striking Scorpions, comes in here for the harassment of the War Tower, has to take care now, has to be really, really careful because he only has the on the hunt for the retreat. If one of those Suicide Bombers can land a good hit here, that would really go a long way. Is the Suicide Bomber already ready again? It is ready, but it comes a little bit too late. Oh, it hits. But as long as those Striking Scorpions have their shields, those Suicide Bombers do minor damage, so they are just at this time there to try to, well, I don't know, to get the shields a little bit down, to maybe scare him away, scare him off. But as long as he has the shields, yeah, damage is not really an issue for those Striking Scorpions. The real issue comes in when the Striking Scorpions don't have a shield anymore, then those Suicide Bombers, and then basically everything else is tearing them apart. But that's what the Webway Gate is for, right? And they are they still in? Wait, let me have a look. Do they have the Wetway Gate buff still? I don't think they have. Now at least not anymore, but well, they were slightly out of range from the Wetway Gate, but have a little bit of an engagement right here. Striking Scorpions are going against against the Storm Boys right here. That was pretty clever. Suicide Bomber, and then the move out into the stealth. But yeah, there are the Dire Avengers, which throw the plasma grenades and firing away. So that's it for the Storm Boys for the next 155 seconds. And I tend to repeat myself. This is not a cast in terms of entertainment or in terms of how I do my casts usually. This is under the preface that this is a way that you as an Orc player can hold yourself versus an Eldar. So if we make a quick summary of what has happened for now, there has been for the Orcs, there has been the Slugger Boys, there has been a quick emphasis on the looters and the truck, along with those necessary doctrines for the truck as well. So you have the Suicide Bombers. You didn't go for the Tractor Beam, which you can think of whatever you want, but I think the Tractor Beam is a pretty good addition. So I would rather let this thump from the sky thing fall in favor of the Tractor Beam, but that's entirely debatable. And then he went for Nobs. So pretty much one Nob squad, which got out of the truck and through the keep trucking doctrine. They have the shield, but now there is Farsia Mecha on the field. Suicide Bomber comes in along with the taunt. Maybe should have waited. They could have got a better hit with the Suicide Bombers, but the shield explosion from the Nobs are really wrecking those Dire Avenger squads apart. So the Suicide Bomber in the end didn't even really matter, as two of the Dire Avenger squad are going down. We have the... I still have a problem at how to call it. That is the Temporal Weave, the stasis thing, which catches the Weird Boy and a Tank Buster squad on the move as they were about to retreat. Pretty much she wants to try to get them in there as long as possible, because she is waiting for the Psychoblast to get off cooldown. This will be not entirely makeable as the Temporal Weave stops and the Psychoblast is only now off cooldown. Singing Spear here from Mecha. Everything else is in stealth. As soon as he sees that, in comes the Psychoblast, down goes the Tank Buster squad, whereas now the Nobs and the Weird Boy are trying to get those striking Scorpions. With a Scrap Blast they get an additional shield. Now when they get Ejected Seed again, they will be have basically a free recharge on the shield, and Dire Avengers really don't do much against Nobs. Does he have the reinforcement point upgrade? No, he doesn't. So as far as I can see, there is also no... there is no pile of guns here for the Orc. Stun comes in, Weird Boy goes down. So that is a little bit of an issue for the Orc right there, as the taunt from the Nobs are coming in, but none of them is really attacking Mecha here at that point. That was just the damage from the Slugger Boys. The Nobs pretty much just provided the taunt here. Would have gone for a little bit of a better situation where the Sluggers were good for the first stun and the first taunt, but then I would have moved them away and get the Nob onto the damage. But hey, that is just a little bit of a nitpicky thing. Suicide Bomber comes in, beautifully done, the spread here from Cataclaw, and in comes the taunt. And with the taunt, he did not manage to get all of them in one spot, but he doesn't need to. The throwing axe along with the Nobs themselves are really providing enough tankiness and enough damage so that the Dire Avengers have to retreat. But it's an entirely different thing with Farsia Mecha, who was on there watching for an opportunity to get on that squad. Stormboys on the top here, trying to recapture the map, and in terms of the map distribution here, in terms of points, it's looking pretty good for the Orc player, if I can say so myself. On the Hunt is here available for the Scorpions. And the Scorpions, I really want to go for that last little bit of health for the shield generator, and they will most likely be able to do this right now when they don't get spotted right here. There goes the shield. So that is a major lead for Cataclaw at this point. But as we have the Sky Portal here for our Eldar and the first Falcon on the field, we see one major thing, which I haven't seen in any of the casts from the ESL last week, where Cataclaw pretty much did the same thing with the Falcons. And as soon as the first Falcon came out, yeah, there was a little bit of battling back and forth, basically, but the game was over at this point. Cataclaw pretty much, and also Bike Rush, did the same thing, where he went for the Falcon with a shield, and none of his opponents were really able to counter that effectively. And the combination of suicide bombers here, Nobs and the killer cans and tank busters are really scary for the Eldar. So that might be the trick DanteeChaos was talking about here. Just go on an early tech against Eldars, because as soon as Eldar hits tech 2, most likely they will come with Falcons. That is just a given. And yeah, we see that is pretty effective, as the map is now divided into 2 equal parts here, basically. So I would say in terms of map control, this is no one's game at the moment. Whereas in terms of points, or in terms of resources, we might have a look at the army of Cataclaw here, who has 1 Dire Avenger squad, 1 Falcon, and another Dire Avenger squad here, along with Farseer Mecha and the Striking Scorpions. Whereas the Orc, on the other hand, has... Let me get over there. Where the Orc, on the other hand, has much more variety in his army, basically. And he is really pretty much prepared for everything. He has the Looters and the Nobs for the infantry, but also has the Killer Cans and the Tank Busters for the mechanical army, for the Falcons here, basically. And as the armies are clashing together here, we have the Killer Cans, and see the damage of those Killer Cans. It's not even the damage of the Tank Busters, really. It's the damage of the Killer Cans. If they are really upgraded or scrapped, and they have everything available, like there's 6 shots, I think 6 is the maximum for the rockets in terms of charge. They do an enormous amount of damage, but they have to be micro correctly. If they waste their rockets further on to Mecha or the Striking Scorpions, that is not good. Maybe you want to go and want to tell them to not fire if there is not anyone mechanical or heavy armored in the way, because now they need a pretty long time to reload. So once they are out of charge, they are pretty much have an abysmal fire rate, and then the damage is pretty much negligible. Whatever it's called. You can't really rely on the damage of those Killer Cans once they are empty. So you have to give them time to recharge. When they have their full charge, they pretty much get rid of their 6 charges in an instant. So that is a nice damage peak, but you have to control them very well. Whereas in Tank Busters, they pretty much have the same DPS whatever you do, but they are not as high. So that is okay. Whereas the Plasma Grenades are hitting here the Slugger Boys and the Storm Boys, and Maka comes in with the Psyker Blast. Yay, I did it right. I called it Psyker Blast, and it indeed was Psyker Blast. Yay, good for me. Yeah, as the Autarch is now on the field, and we will most likely see an Eldritch Wind right here. Sky Leap, and the Eldritch Wind comes back, and everything gets clumped up. That is nice and pretty good to see. There is the taunt, well done here by DanteeChaos. The taunt pretty much I was just about to say it prevented the worst thing from happening, which is losing the army, but the Skyfall pretty much, yeah, said Trapjack, you haven't waited till the end of it. Here we go from the Weird Boy is going out here as Maka and the Autarch reunites, as well as some Wraith Guards. 2 of them, in fact, are coming here to the army, and that is a little bit of a dicey situation. This Killer Can has no charge, so no DPS from there. The Weird Boy is pretty much going down. Yeah. And yeah, the Orc has to retreat here. That's another thing you should put an emphasis on as an Orc. Don't fight fights which are really, really unfavorable to you. You are in one of the more dicey situations as an Orc, as your army is pretty much dependent on your surroundings. If you have them all scrapped up, oh my god, what a nice Eldritch Wind, and the plasma grenades does huge damage. Could have gotten more here if you would micro the Autarch, but wow, Sky Leap comes in as well, missed ever so slightly, and now the Autarch is in a bit of problem, but he has the last chance from Maka here. I don't know if that is enough. That seems to be that the Autarch is going down. But maybe he can put him in the Falcon. He did it. He did put the Autarch into the Falcon, and therefore the Autarch is safe. Maka comes in with the stasis here. Really well done by Cataclaw. I thought for sure this Autarch was dead here. Wow. And Maka with the force field with the stasis here. Well done, and in comes the recall here for all of his army. But not for Maka, as she has pretty much enraged the Orcs here. But little did the Orc know that all the army which was standing here is already back to base. That is unfortunate. He could have gone for Maka if he would know that. Well, what I was about to say as the battle comes to a little bit of a pause here. You have to take care which fights to take as an Orc and which you don't want to take. So for example, if your Killer Cans are not fully charged, or if they have just like 2 charges or something like that, you don't want to fight anything. You want to remove them from the fight, and you want to have them charged up. Because as I said before, yeah, the DPS is pretty much it's pretty much not countable. I don't say this word anymore. And with that, yeah, it's pretty hard for you to fight. So in comes the army from Cataclaw here, which starts to look really scary. The Autarch here back to almost full shields again, as he was already more or less dead in the other engagement. On the Hunt Scorpions here are waiting for the Stormwise to pass by. It's not doing anything, but it has the information, of course, now that the Stormwise are coming in. The one squad of Dire Avengers here will pay with their lives, but also pretty huge hit from the Wraith Guards here in terms of elite damage. And Dante knows something is going on here. He saw the shots from the Wraith Guards. There will be another volley. He can't really dodge, but well, managed to dodge some of the shots with the leap here from the Orc boys. With the jump. That was well reacted, I gotta say that. And here is the entire Orc army. Multiple Killer Cans. We have 3 Slugger Boy squads, excuse me, and we have an emphasis on Killer Cans. Alright, if you have those many Killer Cans, of course, then it becomes pretty much a point where you just mark them all, right click on something mechanical or something heavy armored, and it gets annihilated. You see, all of them have 6 shots available. They get rid of those 6 shots immediately. I still think that 1 or 2 looter squads in here would go a long way, and that is pretty much a waste. I gotta say that, sorry, but that I feel like that would have been better. 1 Tankbuster squad or something along those lines. they take a hell of a long time to reload. You could even go with the Slugger Boys, basically. Now Beauty the Morgonaut is ready. That turns the tides once more, as well as we have... Yeah, we have all of those elites on the field now for Cataclaw, but we have Beauty the Morgonauts now hitting the field right here. And yeah, there is the Sky Leap, but the Eldritch Wind didn't hit before that, I assume. And now we have the exact problem I was talking about. Most of them are out of charges, and yeah, they have to flee now. Now in comes the fire. Falcon finally goes down. That was really good. Stasis comes down from Maka. Doesn't hit the Weird Boy or Beauty. And that could be a problem as the shields are coming now. And I don't know if you know that. If you press the shield button, the Q once more, you can actually give certain units a shield as well. So you don't even have to move those guys into the shield of Morka. You can really go and give one of the killer cans a shield so they can provide for their own shield. That's just on the side as the Weird Boy here goes down. Yeah, so we have a little bit still of a dicey situation. Whereas the Orc player goes for another Nob squad, basically for going against those elites here, because really Beauty is a little bit slow to react to anything. She's just there for tanking damage, basically soak stuff. And there are the Wraith Guards coming in for the cannon, basically. Oh well, I just saw the thing. I think that was the building where you have the Wraith Guards from, and I was just wondering why he would port it right here to the Orc base, and that was of course to soak the damage from the cannon. That was a clever attempt at least, but it didn't hold very much. But you can see that Cataclaw really has some problems here, otherwise he wouldn't go for those unconventional tactics right here, as the Wraith Guards have to flee here right as the Storm Boys are going in. And you see this damage. The damage is pretty much not that high against lightly armored units here. And even the Gretchens, even 3 Gretchen squads can pretty much be a nightmare. Now in comes the cavalry here. Killer cans are really going for the Wraith Guards of Cataclaw right here. And this is where yeah, it pretty much comes to a cat and mouse game here in this game, because I don't know if I can explain this right, but that was just an idea that just came to my mind. The unit that counters the other unit, like in this example Killer Cans and Wraith Guards, are pretty much also susceptible to each other. So that means you build Wraith Guards to counter Killer Cans, and those Wraith Guards surely do a lot of damage onto Killer Cans, but so do Killer Cans onto Wraith Guards. And so it's pretty much a soft counter situation where both units are strong versus each other, and it pretty much comes down to who has more and who can right click faster, as the shield generator goes down here in favor of DanteeChaos. And now Beauty goes in to tank the turret damage, and with those killer cans right there, in comes the Fist of Gork, I think? Rocket Fist. Alright, I was close. I said Fist. Death Threat here as well, and we see those many units. That, on the other hand, speaks for someone who has a really good skill of unit conservation. And with that being said, I assume that one went to Dante here, and Cataclaw really just quit this game. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to the screen you saw earlier, and I want you to have something from that, like as an experience standpoint. I was talking about, I got this replay because Dante said, hey, watch at it, you can see how you can hold your own versus an orc. I gotta agree with him, it's a pretty good example. It's how you can hold foot as an orc. First of all, you need to scout. Scouting is so important in this game, and that is the difficult thing in this game. This game has a so high emphasis on battle situations that you pretty much feel you don't need to scout anything because your army is constantly on the field, it's constantly moving. But you need to watch for certain things. You need to watch for the sky portal. As soon as you see something that even remotely tells you that the Eldar could be at tier 2, you gotta be aware of that and immediately start killer can production. Now, how to get to that? Of course, Dire Avengers, if microed well, if the plasma grenades hit, they can be a nightmare for an orc. We don't have to talk about that. So, basically what I found, and what's pretty much done here as well, is instead of going for 3 slugger boys to begin with, and try to get this weird poking battle on in the early stages, go for one or maximum of 2, and build the Ducker Hut right away. The Ducker Hut does not only support looters, it does, sorry, allergies and stuff, it does also support the truck you need at tier 1.5, or it's basically tier 2, but I call it 1.5 because it's not that big of a leap. So you go for a looter squad, and this is where it gets really, really micro intensive. It comes to a point where you have to guard your looter squad with 1 or 2 slugger boy squads, and this is where you have to pretty much try and error this thing. But don't be mistaken, the Eldar has to do the exact same thing. Like, Eldar is pretty micro intensive as well, so it's not that the Eldar can pretty much go and A-click on you. That is not going to happen. Looters are really supplying so much damage that the Eldar has to be pretty careful. Once their shields are down, he has to move right away or send a plasma grenade and has to hit that. And when you come in with an orc, even scrapped orcs that can stun those Eldar troops, yeah, and you have to remember that they have to stand still when they reload, when they have their cycle with the overheated guns. So this is pretty much where you hold yourself and hold parts of the map until you are able to get the truck. The truck is your next big objective in this game. It should be pretty much in any matchup, because a suicide bomber doctrine is pretty much too strong right now to neglect. And as soon as your truck is in, you go for knobs, because knobs is pretty much the sign for the Eldar that says, hey, I can't deal with it anymore when I have light weapons, so I have to go for something heavy armored. So that means for the Eldar, in any case, tech up, tier 2 or tier 3 even, and then he can pretty much come with Wraith Guards. Wraith Guards are pretty slow, and knobs are melee. Wraith Guards are shooting type of infantry, so they only have not melee, but they attack from afar. So as soon as you have them in your taunt, Wraith Guards are pretty much meh. So next viable option is Falcons for an Eldar, if you go for that. And Falcons are really susceptible to anti-vehicle damage. Tank busters are not the best choice, but if you ever find yourself on a low resource point, like maybe if this was Charon's Rest, for example, and you were pretty much down to your own base, that can help if you have more requisition than power and go for some tank busters, but those you have to put those in higher numbers. Yeah, and with that you fight. There was pretty much nothing else at the end. It's just anti-vehicle stuff or anti-heavy armor stuff for the Orc, and that decimated the Eldar to a point where he even went for the building tank to get some requisition, some points, some elite points maybe, I don't know, to counter this army. And the next big thing, and that is also something that should go for any matchup, as an Orc, as a Space Marine, as an Eldar, go for unit preservation. It's tempting to just leave your units in there and trade 1-for-1 with the mindset of, hey, okay, I have map control. I can easily reproduce those, whereas my opponent, well, if he loses this squad entirely, that is a big hit. True, but at the same time, if you would kill all of his models except for one, and you still have one, you are also on even footage in terms of you did a pretty mighty blow to him, because also reinforcement costs resources, of course. And yeah, especially when you start to trade elites for non-elite units, like in terms of the Storm Boys, in terms of the Autarch. You saw in this one scene where the Autarch was already at the last chance, got revived there, and pretty much you saw that Cataclaw did everything he could to save this dude. He went in there with a Falcon, he threw down the stasis and everything like that, and that's just because unit preservation is key. There might not be an XP experience system for your units, but you need to save them, and that's even more important than giving your enemy the mighty blow of killing 1 or 2 squads of him. Of course, the goal should be to kill it and go out with your units and preserve them anyways, but if you see that the fight is pretty much not going in your favor or goes to a position where you both might to lose it, then it's cleverer to pull your units back, reinforce, try it another time, try it with more, try a different tactic, and go from there. And the last thing I want to mention is there are people out there that say, oh, well, it has Dawn of War has not that layer of strategy and it's not that deep. While that might be true in terms of units and in terms of different strategies when it comes to building stuff, but also I will get to that in a little bit. But you have the map, you have those engagement paths that you can go for. You have things where you can be sneaky, more sneaky than you can be in any other game, in my opinion. And pretty much everything comes down to how you plan out your engagements. And this is something that is, of course, not as fast as in games as in StarCraft 2, or even to a degree might be Dawn of War 1, but I'm not that sure about it. You have to plan your engagements, you have to preserve units, and you have to scout. Those are the 3 things that, in my opinion, are key. And if you do that, and if you do that right, if you study your counters, if you study the enemy's counters to your army, then you get like owned without a chance, then I think so-called whining, so-called complaining about the balance and unbalance of those units is okay. But as long as you don't do that, and you try to pretty much go to a point where you complain about balance of the game. Sure, this game is not balanced at the moment. We don't have to argue about that. It's true. There are units in the game right now that are more powerful than their counterpart, and they have ridiculous numbers. Assault Marine's best example with the power sword upgrade. They 3-swing your cannon and 10-swing your core in with 3 squads. So that is no discussion there. They are unbalanced at the moment. They need to be nerfed. But if you starve your enemy before he even can get to those numbers of Assault Marines, or the power sword upgrade, or anything along those lines, then it is already again in your favor. Or if you position 3-4 looter squads onto your cannon, like a little bit away so he doesn't see it, and he jumps onto the cannon, that's 1 jump, 1 leap. He already invested in that. Maybe he even did a jump beforehand, and he has no possibility of retreating from that. He might get the cannon, sure, but he loses his 4 things, and that needs, if anything, it needs time to reinforce them. What I want to say is basically just try and think logically, try and think critically even about your approach onto the different matchups before you go onto the forums and say, well, it's blatantly overpowered, it's blatantly unbalanced, I can't wait for the balance patch, yada yada yada. The game is fun as it is if you put a little bit of emphasis in to try and learn new things. Alright, that's it for me. This has been Trapjack. This is Trapjack's Casts. GLHF. I did it right. Yes. See you on the next one.